Good evening, everyone. I hereby call to order a meeting of the Providence School Board Finance Committee. It is August 13th. The time is 5:07 p.m. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as drafted?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Moving on to the consent agenda, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion.
Wait, second that motion.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. So we will move on to our first item of business this evening. Item 4.0, Senior School District Administrator Hiring. We have two senior school district administrators on our agenda this evening. Is there someone here from the district who would like to introduce themselves and tell us about these folks?
Sure. Zach Scott, Deputy Superintendent of Operations. Happy to do this for both of the individuals you have in front of you. So I'll speak first about the Chief Talent Officer. That role that as you're aware of was previously held by Herman James, who was a huge asset to the district, and we were sad to see him go, but have conducted a interview process involving posting the job externally, interviewing candidates. We had two candidates that were screened through and interviewed by panel, and Gina Daddario was selected as the candidate for that role. Gina has prior experience in Boston Public Schools in their HR office, and has spent a lot of time working in human capital in a variety of places of education. She's been with the district since November of 2021, has done a great job working in that department, and we're excited to have her move into this new role. I'm happy to move on to the next candidate and answer questions that folks may have. Second role is Chief Operating Officer, so another very important for the role in the district, oversees district facilities, food services, operations, safety, transportation, registration. So a very big role. It was one previously held by Sal Valano, who was also a tremendous asset to the district, and departed that he had been looking for a bit of time to find a replacement. This job was posted publicly. We went through a screening process with candidates, and ultimately had three individuals interview for that role with an interview panel. And Dr. Moore was the one who was identified as a candidate to move forward. So Dr. Moore had a long track record of experience in public education, working both in California as well as a small stint in Miami and Boston. He was most recently the chief of staff in Providence School District in California since 2021. And so we feel incredibly lucky that he has joined the team. So I'm happy to answer questions about the roles or the individuals if you have any questions.
Thank you, Deputy Superintendent Scott. Other board members, committee members, President Stevens, do you have any questions about these two hires?
Can you talk a little bit about did they share any experiences they have involved regarding recruiting teachers and employees specifically?
Yeah, and I'll spend most of that with Ms. Daddario. So in Boston, she had a role where she was working directly with schools on recruitment, staffing, evaluation, and then ultimately on employee services and retention. And then most recently in the school district, she was the executive director of recruitment and staffing. And so she was responsible for building the recruitment and staffing functions for the district. So prior to Ms. Daddario being here, the district had a relatively small recruitment function. Much of it was focused on staffing and others. And so she has done a lot of work in Providence for this, the chief role of helping to build out staffing, recruitment, and pipeline functions.
I think mine is just light. On the Chief Talent Officer, it says bachelor degree required, master's preferred, and then the COO, it says master's degree required. Is there like any reason why?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, if we went back, maybe we would adjust both to bachelors. I know that many people, we've often found we want to have as broad a pool as possible. So I think if we could adjust, I think bachelor's degree is probably okay. I think historically the CO has had, it's been a role that has required master's degree, but I think it's a fair piece of feedback if we wanted to standardize it across chief roles.
Even at masters.
Is it? Leave it at master's, sorry.
Even at masters.
Okay.
These are big roles.
Yeah, that's fair.
Gina has a master's, so it's fine.
Yeah. She has a master's and then Dr. Moore has a
Another
doctorate.
doctor. And Gina has a, she has,
Her superintendent.
yes.
And then Dr. Moore is coming from Oakland as chief of staff, correct?
Correct.
Any experience working with facilities?
Yeah, so he's done a lot of work around, I believe they had some funding coming in to expand pre-kindergarten. And so some of that has been both around enrollment and facility fees. So he's done a lot of work there. They also did a lot of work around, relevant to this role, around school safety. So just like a lot of districts in 2020, 2021, as students were returning from COVID, there was a lot of readjustment and supporting students do that. So I know a lot of the time I was working with the school department and local community organizations on that.
I just want to say, these are great ways of bringing a lot of accomplishment. So, I trust this on this one.
Yeah, I will just add that both of these candidates look extremely qualified for the positions they're taking on. I'm excited to see that there will be some continuity in the talent office in particular. And excited for some fresh energy in the COO role. So this is exciting. Just as a point of clarification, I believe that the action or the motion that I'm willing to entertain this evening would be to recommend these two senior school district administrator hires to the full school board for review, and then we would see them again on our consent agenda likely at our meeting later this month. So do I have a motion to recommend Gina D'Addario as Chief Talent Officer and Dr. Dexter Moore Jr. as Chief Operating Officer?
So,
I'll say.
Excellent. Any further discussion?
yeah, what was I gonna say? No, I'm so sorry. No discussion.
No apologies necessary, Mr. President. Excellent. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Wonderful. Thank you so much, and we look forward to meeting those individuals in the future or meeting Gina again. We will move on to item 5.0, discussion and possible action to recommend the funding of travel expenses for Council of Great City Schools to provide in-person school board professional development. Before we talk about this item, I want to provide for the public and those who might be listening a tiny bit of background on this, just so we understand why we have this item at Finance Committee this evening. Earlier this year, the new school board took on the responsibility of going through some training with a student outcomes focused governance coach. We have engaged the Council of Great City Schools to provide that training. When we originally voted to engage with this group and approve the professional services agreement, the school board at our public meetings had voted not to expend any public funds because the full fees for the coaching itself are covered by a philanthropic donation. You can learn more about that in our previous meetings if you'd like to look that up. We did have a special meeting of the school board back on July 2nd, during which we began a discussion to potentially rescind, and we voted that night to rescind the prohibition on expenditure of public funds, specifically around exploring funding travel expenses to have some of our coaching be in person. So that is the item that we are trying to discuss tonight. It does not change anything else about our professional services agreement. It's simply the school board being responsible and wanting to be clear with the public that we are making a change or a change in our recommendation of how we should engage with this coach and how we want to fund that. So I believe that we may be hearing this evening again from someone on our finance team who can share with us a recommendation of where we might find those funds to pay for those travel expenses.
I'm happy to share, we had some discussions earlier today, so that within our approved FY '26 budget, there is a funding available to the school board for various supplies and items. And so after the review, my recommendation would be to repurpose some of the funding originally identified for technology, which I think was the amount that line has roughly $5,000, would be reallocated to support travel expenses.
Thank you, Deputy Superintendent Scott. Any discussion from committee members or president students on this item?
Can you talk a little bit, so how much funding that we have? Is it just the 5,000?
Yeah, so the full, what is in the school board line entirely is around $850,000. A significant portion of that, and I will pull up my notes, is in items that are not necessarily kind of discretionary or kind of under the purview of the school board. So those are things like our legal expenses for outside counsel, the salaries of staff that stipend for school board members, as well as staff that support the school board. So the amount of more kind of discretionary funds is around $50,000. Within that, there are things like the electronic school board. So I can share more detailed list, but there was like $50,000 that was a little more fungible, and all of it would require a trade-off between, you know, if you're doing repurposing funding for this, there wouldn't necessarily be funding for laptops, new laptops, or new technology for school board members, but I can share a more detailed budget for roughly $50,000 that was discretionary, and again, much of which was set aside for memberships, the electronic school board, and things like that. So the $5,000 was money that had not been expensed and would, you know, had typically been used for device replacement. So I guess the decision would be to kind of forego that in exchange for the funding for travel expenses.
Are there questions or comments from the members or students? I will add that I think that there is an energy from the school board as a whole, based on that discussion in the special meeting in early July. We are undergoing our listening sessions right now as a school board, and the next step after that is to really lean into the expertise of our coaches to help us compile all of the information that we're hearing from our community. Please, if you are listening and you have not attended yet, please attend one of our listening sessions. We have lots of information on our website. There's a session tomorrow. There are a number of sessions next week. And there's also an online survey if you're unable to attend in person. But the purpose of specifically seeking travel expenses for our coaches is so that they can make sure that we've taken all of the wonderful information that we've heard from our community, and we can use that to develop our goals and guardrails, which will then help the district develop a strategic plan for the next 5 years around that community vision and values. So I am in strong support of the coaching model in general, and specifically having that additional support that comes with in-person versus virtual only training. So I will entertain a motion if there's no further discussion.
I just want to
Yes,
I just want to honestly thank the board also for sending this to send this item to the finance committee. I think that this is a transparent process, so I want to thank the board and also the district with this. And yeah, so I don't have no problems school board using our budgets to fund this. I think the listening section is going to be amazing. We hearing directly from the communities. I think that this is going to help the board, our students in the future.
Excellent. Well said, Chairman. Okay, so I will entertain a motion to recommend funding travel expenses up to $5,000 for the Council of Great City Schools to provide in-person school board professional development. Actually, I removed that recommendation of that motion. I will entertain a motion to recommend the funding of travel expenses in an amount up to $5,000, which would be reallocated from the school board department budget designated for technology for Council of Great City Schools to provide in-person school board professional development. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. Motion passes. Thank you so much for that
Thank you.
context. We will move on to item 6.0, report on contracts. Our first contract, 6.1, is iSafe Enterprises LLC.
Thank you. I'm Michaela Keegan, I'm Executive Director of Curriculum and Instruction. Today we have Lenwyn Thompson III with us. He is the Director of Advanced Academics and Libraries, and he will be presenting the contract with IC.
Well, thank you again for allowing me to come. The iSafe curriculum is something that we use within the district to meet our E-rate compliance. It comprises lessons that teachers can teach from grades kindergarten through 12th grade around internet accountability, appropriate usage, and cyberbullying. This is something that we've used for the past 10 years. Some things that I want to highlight: for every $1 that has been spent according to our turnaround plan, the federal government has matched $9, and this program comes at a great discount because we have been using it. So instead of paying the traditional $5, we pay $1 per student. So it totals to $23,000. This program has been vetted. Even our new technology director has also approved this program as well.
Any discussion, comments, questions on the iSafe Enterprises contract? There being none, I will entertain a motion to approve the iSafe Enterprises contract.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Excellent, thank you so much. Item 6.2, a second contract amendment to the Stepping Stones Group contract.
So usually provided executive director student supports, to school board to respectfully request an amendment for the amount of $693,813.12 for the Stepping Stones contract to cover the 24-25 fiscal school year. The reason we are asking for this amendment is previously we weren't able to get other vendors that could provide the services, but Stepping Stones could. And we had some staff shortages and the databases for the services were needed. This money wouldn't be additional, it would come from the other vendors that we didn't utilize to cover the cost.
Great. And I know we've seen, there was a recent amendment, one I think was in June, April, okay. Yeah, so we've talked through Stepping Stone before. It sounds like they're providing some great services in a high needs area for our district. Any questions, comments on the Stepping Stone amendment too?
Yeah, I think as it pertains to the Stepping Stone, I have no problems with approving it. I would say though, I think it's going to be beneficial if when we do send sort of bids out for approval, or we agree which vendor we're going to use, that we know the exact amount that we're going to use in advance. Because when we did an amendment for over $1 million in April, and then we see it again over $600,000 today, I just want to make sure things are sort of like, they just sort of look smooth. It doesn't seem as if, we're just, I'm not an educator, so I don't know, but I'm just saying, hopefully, and maybe
maybe I'm not looking at it correctly or anything, but I'm just saying, hopefully, when we first put this up to bid, we properly budget it and be safe, on the safe side of budgeting the money, than keep, having to sort of make amendments. That's just my two cents.
So we did, make some changes, so previously there were multiple people with oversight of this vendor, so now it will just be myself. And so we developed some processes and procedures, so I'm meeting with my team weekly, meeting with finance monthly, just to make sure that we stay on top of it and it doesn't,
Got it.
get to this point.
And we also increased the budget and also fiscal 26 and this one.
Perfect.
So we adjusted the budget right now.
Perfect, okay, that's it.
I just have a quick question. I'm just reading more. So this vendor provides staffing, like what, yeah, like what type of staffing,
Yeah,
and
so
what's that process like, the collaboration that you guys have
Yeah,
with this
so
vendor?
it's speech therapists, it was previously, it was, TAs, registered computer technicians, computer support assistants. They were actually able to supply a lot of our services, occupational therapists. So we have since filled some of those, which has been great for us. We're looking now, moving forward, that Stepping Stones will probably at this point just provide the speech and language pathologist. That's their largest shortage has been. Right now, our physical therapists, occupational therapists are filled. So
Just another question. What can the districts, just more like a recommendation that what can the district do so we won't, I guess, like depends on this vendor, like to have our own therapists, to have our own.
Yeah, I don't
we are, I was
know.
gonna say, so we are actually working with, the colleges, so we're trying to get, but speech and language pathologists there's a shortage, right? So that's why even the vendors, that's why we're having such a hard time. Some of the other vendors we're working with are having a hard time getting speech and language pathologists. One thing that we just was passed is that, they're going to allow around now to have speech and language, assistants, so SLAs, SLPs, speech and language, sorry, I said that wrong. Assistants, so that's something that I just talked to HR about, that we can, try to move forward with, and that would probably help us in the long run, to be able to fill positions.
Thank you so much. Me personally, I look forward to working with you and also our new HR person to make sure what is the way the district can do, like going in other states, even out of country, if you have to fill these positions. Yeah, but I support this. I think
It makes sense. We have shortages as it pertains to a lot of different roles, including this, so absolutely. And if the vendor is, going to support it, we give them a couple more dollars, I think that it's definitely worth it. Let's give the resources now.
And I just want to name, I think in previous finance committee meetings, we've talked about sort of that constellation of vendors that we had where in previous years, we've approved up to a certain amount across multiple vendors, but it's not always clear ahead of time where they're going to be able to find their staff. So just reinforcing that point that this isn't, it's a new amount, but out of that bucket that was budgeted for these services, it's not going above that bucket or outside of that bucket. It's just allocating within the bucket in a different bucket is not working now, as I've painted myself into a corner with this analogy, but I think that's it. And I will also name that I think we've also heard both at Finance Committee and in general that our student need continues to increase. So not only there's quite a bit of a mismatch of the pipeline and availability of qualified professionals to provide these services at the same time while more of our students are needing these services to be able to learn and receive the education that they're entitled to. So
Compensatory services as well.
compensatory services, yeah. It's certainly a challenge, and thank you, team, for continuing to pivot and find the best possible ways to meet our students' needs in a complicated staffing landscape. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. And Chris, can you explain to me the bucket of what the funding
Oh,
is?
no, I gave
So,
you
no,
the bucket now,
that's
Chris.
So it's a mixture of multiple line items within the budget. So this stepping stone not only provides speech service for officials, but the bulk of it. So we're seeing savings in the salary lineup for not be able to fill those positions, in the OT, occupational therapists, physical therapist line items within the local budget, and also savings in those line items in the IDA bucket as well, because some of these services are allowable in federal funds. Okay. So it's in the services bucket, if you will, but it's narrowed down to those services, which would be occupational therapist, psychology services, speech and language services, and other people's nursing services as well.
And so with the bidding process,
We asked for, sorry,
Mhm.
so we don't want to narrow our services providers to say, we're gonna strictly go out for this type of services. We put out a broad RFP to say, what type of services can you provide the district? And what are your hourly rates? So it doesn't, we're not pigeonholed, if you will, to one specific vendor that can provide one services. We have a wide lens to go to multiple vendors to say, give us our best prices, and if one vendor's not able to provide the service, we can go to the next person up, because we know that legally, we still have to provide the service to the students, so. That's why we look to a wide net of, in the RFP process, and we go by the lowest possible qualified bidder to provide the services, but we also have people on deck. If that person can't provide the services, we go to the next person up to provide the services.
absolutely, and I was gonna say, so like a part of the bidding process is typically who gives us the best price. And I'm just saying, in order to protect PPSD, I don't want us to sort of get into a situation where we give it to the lowest bidder, and then it's like, a couple of months later, okay, here's more money. Like, I don't want people to be speculating, you get where I'm coming from? So I think that's kind of where I was going, but makes a lot of sense about the bucket and pulling money out if it's in fact needed. And in a situation like this, it is so.
Any other questions or comments on item 6.2, contract amendment number 2 to Stepping Stones Group?
So,
Second.
Excellent, so, all those in favor of approving this contract amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, excellent. And moving on to our final contract of the evening, Emergis Healthcare Staffing.
So we're just looking to add Emergis Healthcare Staffing as an approved vendor. We came to school board in June and we had 10 vendors. One thing that we did realize is 2 of the nursing agencies that we deal with cannot provide all of the services. And we'd like to hire Emergis as kind of that backup to be able to provide nursing services.
got it. I'm so sorry, Chair.
Any questions from President Stevens?
Didn't-
or other members of
You are
the
hilarious.
committee?
You are funny. Okay, so what services do they provide?
Basically, Emergis does mainly nursing, but they can also provide, they will look for other services, so they could possibly help with speech, occupational therapy, behavior support assistance, things like that. But for the most part, they've been able to provide nursing, and we've used them in the past, they're able to provide more than some of the other services.
So are we gonna shift from the smart clinics back to nursing?
No, this is just, I'm sorry, this
Oh,
is
this
for
is
just
just,
potentially one-on-one nursing
yeah.
services to a student with a high need.
Got it, okay, so totally different.
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay,
Students that need CNAs, RNs, depending on health needs.
got it, okay. And do we have a shortage as it pertains to that?
To hire
Well,
us,
yeah,
hire
so-
on our own, it's been really difficult.
Yeah, we don't have a specialized typical employee that would do one-on-one nursing services. So this would be, they're far and few that we have, but they are a high student population that are in the district. And it's not always predictable of when that student that high need would come into the district or come from out of district placement back into the school setting. And we have to provide those services when that student re-enters our buildings.
Have you used this vendor in the past?
Yeah.
How recent?
Yeah, fiscal 25.
Yeah. they really just-
Oh, last year,
Yeah.
okay. Is this a renewal or is it an entirely new?
So,
Well, we had just put out an RFP, so it would be a new contract.
Say it again?
New contract.
Okay, so it would be considered a new contract. Got it, okay.
so we're asking for your consideration to add this of our pool of vendors to provide services for fiscal 26.
Got it, okay.
And, do you know how many schools they're gonna be working with?
Not all, I would say, I'm trying to think, last year when we had them, they worked with about, they actually had several students, so I would say probably like 5 or 6 schools they were at, some of our high need schools where we have our severe population.
And, yeah, again, it's just, it comes on again, with how, the district can keep, getting our own stuff. It's like, we have a lot of vendors, really doing a lot of great services to the districts. Like, is there a way for us to communicate with them how they're able to hire these employees and keep them? What kind of incentive they are providing to their own employees? I don't know if we can do that, but it's just like,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes it does make sense to outsource this need, so, because like I said earlier, you're not always quite sure when that student is going to come into the district, so there might be a high need in one year, but that need might, be reduced in the following year, but now we have the employee. So now we can pick and choose with how much time we need from the acute level, so you can have that in your arsenal if that student is to leave the district. So,
And this is to support with staffing, correct?
yeah, it's for
One-on-one.
one-on-one staff and nursing services to those high need students.
Got it. And then do we have like some data pertaining to their success record with providing?
Yeah, I guess I can send it. A spreadsheet. Like, exactly where they go, what schools to, and then they don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that'd be good. I think that'd be good. Even with some of the other contracts, I know there's some contracts where we have like packets, I can see in them. But I would say it's good, the more information, the better. Definitely with contracts that are in the 100,000s, I think that's gonna be beneficial moving forward, just to have some of the success records of some of the vendors. But, go ahead. I don't know if you had something to say.
yeah, I just want to personally, I would love actually, in the fall when the school starts, this one to be also like a review on the health awareness committee. But personally, I want to also thank Julie, for prioritizing our students' mental health. So, thank you.
Thank you so much for presenting on that. Any other questions or comments around the Emergis Healthcare Staffing new contract? There being none, I will entertain a motion to approve the Emergis Healthcare Staffing contract.
So,
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. There being no further business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, our meeting is adjourned at 5:40 PM. Thank you so much, everyone.
thank you.
Thank you. Well done.
Yes, okay.